Persona. A long series of games with an even longer history. I will never not recommend this game if asked. The same goes for the rest of the series, if I'm being real. I don't think it's as good as P5 Vanilla or Royal. I really like the direction this one took. Now that we're done with the main game, it's time for the other part of FES. It's time to tackle the answer. Next thing I want to cover is the Persona spin-offs. All of them except Strikers, because I did a video on that already. Welcome to the Velvet Room. My name is Igor. I may appear different to you, but I am the same person you have known your entire life. This place exists between dream and reality, mind and matter. You may not know it, but you were brought here for a special reason. Bound by a certain contract, one that you will unveil the purpose for in the days soon to come. But since we do not have days, we will have to do it within minutes. Oh, forgive me. I have neglected to introduce my assistant.
My name is Johanna. I am a PNG of a woman because the Velvet Room does not believe in males. Theo, who is that?
Do you believe in fortune-telling? The strength card. It is reversed. That represents self-doubt, almost as if you are unsure of what you're about to head into. Let's see. The chariot is in the upright position. That represents direction and willpower, determination even. It seems that whatever journey you are about to embark on may seem worrying, but you're heading in, steadfast no matter the outcome. Well, it seems like our time here is wrapping up. Do visit again, for I'm sure that we will meet once more. Until then, farewell. Now, it's no secret that I love Persona. If you've been with this channel long enough, you know that I adore the shit out of this series. This is like the 6th video I've made about this entire thing, and it's honestly not going to stop anytime soon. Probably not until I cover the rest of all, 2 games, I guess? Hell, I own so much Persona stuff, like, look at this! Look at all this that I own! It got out of control so fast! I don't know what happened. I'm probably not even gonna stop till I get every iteration that I can. Atlas, please sponsor me and give me money and your stuff, please. I can't take it. Now, aside from having no real Persona merch besides, well, these cool cards that I got, I can tell you that everything I just said is true. Hell, you can tell by the intro that I put everything into this series for some reason. And so, to save myself time on videos, I decided to cover just about the rest. These spin-offs. Except for BB Tag, because that's a BlazBlue spin-off with Persona characters. That doesn't count! You can't count it! But, hopefully, that'll make sure that I can put this beast away before I eventually make videos on Personas 1 and 2. Now, Persona itself has always had a weird relationship with spin-offs. Mainly in the fact that they didn't really do them for the longest time. SMT's always had sub-series and such, and, well, Persona itself was a spin-off that just branched off in its own thing, so it's interesting to see that really doesn't have much history. Except for Japanese exclusive mobile games, but that we don't count those. They don't count! But here's how I want to approach this video, and it's going to be a bit weird, so go ahead and buckle your fuckles. I'm going to be covering each game per title, but also in a chronological order. So for example, Persona Q came out in 2012. That'll be its own category. In between then we had a few games like the dancing games and such. Or no, it was only Persona 4 dancing. But we're going to be covering Q1 and Q2 in the same segment, if that makes any sense. Kind of just to keep it all semi-organized without going through a complete clusterfuck of a timeline. But anyways, let's go ahead and start things out in the ring. Persona 4 Arena.
Ding, ding.
Alright, quick history lesson. Now, back when it released, Persona 4 was popular. And I mean very popular. So popular that Atlus milked the shit out of it for years, and Teddy was basically the mascot of the entire company for that span of time. I'm not even kidding. And well, to cash in on the hype, Atlus decided to team up with ArcSys, you know, the guys behind Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, to create a fighting game. And, well, to put it delicately, it fucks. Now, this game was originally developed for arcades, and then, well, released in Japan and worldwide the same year, which is great. It came with some pretty interesting combat, and also came with an interesting enough story. It gave the characters reasons to engage in these fights aside from, "You're in my way," and "I don't like your face," or "You're evil." Kinda-ish. Look, I'll be honest, for the sake of this review and all I have to cover and the rest of it, I did not play the original Arena. I only played a bit of Ultimax, because I didn't do the research and thought that Ultimax combined the two of them. But nope, I was thinking of the remaster. So, you know, to make things easier, I had to look it up on the S&T wiki, so thank you for that. But it does give you a minor recap at the beginning of Ultimax's story mode. So basically, the plot of Arena is, it is Golden Week, about a year after the original game's ending, and you are back in Inaba with all your friends, yay! And well, the Midnight Channel's back again for some reason. Don't ask why, shut up. But within it, there's not really shadows, per se. Well, there are, but the main crux of it is that there's a big fighting tournament held by this new guy named General Teddy. Yeah, he exists, but he's not the real Teddy. He's got the evil shadow eyes, and he wants everybody to fight. There's also this new character named Labris, and she's another anti-shadow weapon.
Hey, Goku, if and when we make it out of this, please don't tell my father that there were 2 more androids.
Well, to be fair, you'd have been wrong anyway. 'Cause there's 3.
Howdy there, I'm Android 13. Look at my trucker hat.
This one was built before Aegis though, so sure, yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, this gave me some real Jiro vibes.
Explain, idiot. No!
We found 3 more androids.
Damn it! 3 whole androids, huh? Pretty sure that makes 8. Never letting the boy live this one down.
But basically the plot is that we gotta stop General Teddy and Labris and take down the tournament. Cool? Got it. Oh, right, yes. I forgot to mention, this game doesn't include just the cast of P4, but the ones from P3 as well. They are much older, and they're also involved because Mitsuru and the Kirijo group lost Labris somehow, so they're caught up in the mess in the TV world over in Inaba. Initially, it's just Mitsuru, Fuka, and Aigis, the main unit of the newly led Kirijo group. Akihiko also there, but he's kind of like Ryu, he's just a walking homeless guy, who's always looking for a good fight, And then in Ultimax, it gets revealed that Junpei, Yukari, Ken, and Koromaru are all part of the Kirijo Reserve Unit. And, well, honestly, it's really hard to mention everything, because in the original arena, it's like, you gotta play with the different characters to get their part of the story and piece it together, and then for one final story mode. In Ultimax, it does have a more concise story mode, where you just play different characters, but it's all part of like a roadmap of sorts. So like, that's fine. There's really not much that Ultimax does, aside from introducing a new test tube baby named Sho Minazuki, who's some weirdo with swords. Now, the game itself is pretty fun, but it's very difficult to pick up. A lot of it plays like BlazBlue in terms of gameplay. It's just 4 buttons. 2 for your normal attacks, 2 for personas. And there's a lot of rhythm to it, so you can't just button mash your way through. Except you kinda can, because there's auto combo, but shut up. There's also a bunch of other mechanics, like a version of the all-out attack, there's jump cancels, this game has Roman cancels apparently, there's an awakening, there's also shadow versions of all the characters, and, well, astral finishes, and some other things I really don't understand, but just play the tutorial of this game and you'll basically understand everything. Now, I'm gonna be real straight up with you, I'm kind of a casual when it comes to fighting games, but this game, I can still find myself having some fun. Mainly in just the combo trials, I really like doing them and seeing what I can do. My favorite characters to play being Kanji and Akihiko, mainly just because I can go full Unga Bunga Himbo mode everywhere on everybody. Now, story mode isn't the only thing this has. Well, there's an arcade mode as well, but that's not entirely story, that's kind of like more centralized based on the characters, not with the main plot, whatever. And then there is a score attack mode, where you go through a series of fights, get the best score possible. And then some weird mode, where you can like train a character or something. I don't know, I clicked on it once, I didn't look at it, and that's all I got from it. But it's neat, I guess. Look, if you're looking for some kind of criticism, I'm not going to be the one to offer it. Again, I'm a super big casual, so like I can't find much issues with it. If I were more experienced, yeah, I'd be able to. But this is just the kind of game you can just play and shut your brain off with. It's not as accessible as Fighters, but there's still some ways that you can just have some fun. If I played more of the story, yeah, I could probably give a better review of it, but in terms of first impressions, yeah, that's pretty good. I don't have a clever transition, so it's Persona Q time. Yay! So, Persona Q was interesting. I knew nothing about the game itself besides, well, watching the intro and listening to it. And, well, the general idea of it, I guess. Once I booted up the game, I was for a strange realization of what this was. To start, there's 2 different ways the campaign can go down, with, well, 2 different protagonists to choose from. So basically you get 2 different starting parties. Once the game starts, you can choose between good old Dorkun, Persona 3 fame, and the Chad himself, Narukami. Now, for a good chunk of this footage, I chose the P4 side, but do let it be known I completed the entire campaign as the P3 protag. You're welcome. So, to briefly cover it, we're gonna look at the P3 side first. So, all of Seize and Shinjiro are in Tartarus near the end of September. You know, when that typhoon hit the entire island and we were knocked out for 2 days. Well, we're somehow in Tartarus for some reason, and the protag gets called into the Velvet Room. Due to other events, everyone else gets invited in there, taken forward in time to a Yasagami High Culture Festival. Sure? Oh, and Theo's here too, which is weird and gives some strange implications about the timeline and how that and FemC work, but whatever. He's pretty popular, I guess, and like probably marketable and the butt of every single joke for Elizabeth. So whatever, who cares? But like traveling forward in time? Sure, it's strange, but in this world, I don't know. It's just weird. But for some reason, everyone doesn't seem to really exist, per se. They're almost like figments to everyone around them. Yeah, C's is real, but, you know, nobody responds to them in any coherent way. So after some investigating, we find a stand called Wonderland and You. Meet a few new characters, Amnesiac, Zen, and Ray, before heading in, and then starts the game. So now we transition to P4. Meanwhile, on the P4 side, it's the Yasogami High Culture Festival. But for real this time. We even get to see some Nanako being the sweetest thing ever as usual. But no Dojima, so this game blows. Not worth. No Dojima. 0 out of 10. This game sucks. Dojima best boy. But anyways, everyone is waiting in the main class where the group date happened. You know, in the original game. But then it's time to prepare for the end of festival event. On our way, we find Margaret just wandering around away from her booth that she set up, you know, the fortune-telling one. And we hear that something may be wrong. We go inside of her little booth and find the Velvet Room is in disarray. There are these doors with locks on them. These were on the P3 side, but it's discovered earlier on this, so that's why I mentioned it now. Soon after, the same thing happens, where we get transported into a real world. The only thread tying these two together being this mysterious clock tower that was torn down years ago. Both gangs end up together by the end of the first dungeon, so now everyone's got to work together to find a way out and figure out what Zen and Ray's deals are. You know, going through these 4 dungeons called labyrinths. I don't know why they're labyrinths, they just are. Now the game itself plays a bit more like an Etrian Odyssey game, which, considering the director is Daisuke Kaneda, yeah, that makes sense. He directs Etrian Odyssey, as well as some other Atlus titles, including some SMT and Persona ones. Now, initially I knew nothing about how they played, but after doing some research and looking up the gameplay, yeah, that makes sense. The battles have the same concept as Persona battles, generally. Enemies have elemental weaknesses, you can do crits, buffs, debuffs, and even some all-out attacks in the weirdest style ever. You know, just all kinds of things that you can normally do. The way that all-out attacks work, just really quick, is that 3 of your characters have to be boosted. So by either getting a crit or striking an enemy's elemental weakness, they get a boost. The next turn they can use the boost for a free attack that doesn't cost any SP or SP. But if 3 of them, or if 3 of your party members get a boost in a single turn, you can do an all-out attack, irregardless of if an enemy is knocked down or not. And you can also bring more than 4 members in this one. You can bring 5 actually. Really shaking it up. You can shake it up between 3 in the front row, 2 in the back, 2 in the front, 3 in the back. You can kind of just mix it up however you want. Honestly, this game takes a little bit of strategy, but even besides that, when you're really prepared, this game is really fucking brutal, I'm telling you. This game was so difficult for me, in fact, that I had to turn it down to the easiest difficulty. But I can guarantee you that until the second dungeon partway through, I was playing on normal. It's really unfair sometimes. Managing your resources is kind of a chore. You get no money from enemies, so they only drop items for you. But after a while, they lose their monetary value when selling them, so buying new armor and even healing, it's like living in America with how much debt you'll be in. Right, healing's also a thing. You can use items as normal from shops, or even enemies will drop a couple items, or you just find them in chests. Also, Elizabeth has opened up a clinic. She can heal all your wounds and even revive your party. But the more often you do, the more expensive it gets. The issue with this is that enemies do so much damage and you use so many moves requiring SP that the clinic is almost required to be in any kind of shape to move through this large, expansive space. And I'm still not even done. Theo runs the item shop. He will sell you all kinds of crap and even make new items on the menu. Materials you gather through combat. This is another issue with the money system in the game, because stuff's so expensive. I hate it. Depending on who you have set up in your team or even backups, you gotta spend so much spondoolie it makes European game prices blush. And look, I know I'm making a big point on this, but it's honestly a major part of the difficulty. Other than that, the game doesn't even do too much. The writing is subpar at times. It even takes some of the cringe-worthier dialogue Golden has, which really annoyed me, especially with Aki. Look, I love Akihiko, he's my boy, but man, he was stripped down of all character. Just all about training and protein. He mentioned that once or twice in the original game, but whatever. That also expands to characters like Teddy, Rei, Chie, and even Junpei a bit. The layout of these labyrinths is super confusing, and not in the fun way, where it makes you feel smart for figuring out the right path. No, these things are big, and there are always misleading paths, even other rooms that lead to nothing and you have to go all the way back. These are not the fun kind of labyrinths with Ziggy Stardust in them.
Nothing, tra-la-la.
But for what it is, honestly, I don't regret playing it. It's just got some kinks it needs to sort out to be up there with some of the greats in the main series. I just hope that the sequel is able to improve on the issues that I have with this one. Now, Persona Q2 is a bit different right off the bat. Hell, it's a bit more fun. Even from the intro, you can tell the game itself has bigger focus on what kind of audience it wants to appeal to. See, the issue I found with Q1 is that it didn't really feel like a game that appealed to either Persona 3 or 4 fans. It kind of mixed both together in this weird, strange amalgam, and it kind of became a mess at some points. This one's clearly inspired by Persona 5, but of course, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Now, let it be disclosed that I only completed the first dungeon. As of writing/recording, I am partway through the second. So before I get any flack of this, I didn't have enough time or patience to complete this one. Dude, I put 100 hours into the first game. Like, what do you expect? Now, the game starts out with Joker asleep, and we see a movie theater screen as Philemon, the butterfly, flies across. You see a quote from one Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who is a guy I've never heard of. Anyway, Morgana does the opposite of what he normally does and tells us to wake up. We gotta meet the other Phantom Thieves and go to Mementos. Once everyone gets their own introductory scene, including Pancake Boy, so in the timeline this happens after Okumura, and probably a little bit into Sai's Palace because they already saw his persona Robin Hood. Whatever. Morgana just ends up losing control. She's chasing something. The bus just moves on its own, really. It goes into a wall with some kind of screen in it. Everyone alive and well, we wake up in a city, and not Mementos. So our game begins. This is our first dungeon, Kamo City. And once we get out of here, it's revealed that we're inside of a movie called Kamoshida Man. Gotta fight the son of a bitch again. Everyone having clear resentment after what happened the last time we saw him. So it's up to the Phantom Thieves to do what they do best, kick the guy's ass and liberate the masses who see him as a hero. It's honestly a stronger start than the last game. If you ask me, it just goes with whatever theme it's going with. The idea of it being a movie theater is really silly, and at this point in the game doesn't make sense, but I kinda love it. In the last game, they tried to introduce this overarching plot with new characters, but the new characters didn't really do much. Or, they didn't really serve much purpose besides being a driving force for the plot in one of the arguably most dumb way possibles I've seen. But these new characters here serve the same role as Velvet attendants. You know, they just hang around. They're bystanders of this weird world. And you know what? That's okay. The gameplay here is very similar with a few balances. It's slightly easier to get into, but you're limited a lot by the amount of items and what items you bring in. Oh, and money. That's right, money is back and a hell of a lot easier to get. Trust me. You now get money per battle. It's not like a shuffle time thing or anything. Like, it actually says you get money. It's not a lot sometimes, but you still get something, so it makes the grind a lot easier and more worth it. Things, as of this point in the game, are a lot cheaper too. As well as the omission of a healing station, so you heal every time you return back for the theater. Which is a lot of how it worked in Tartarus, so you know what? That's a nice touch. The dungeons themselves are also a lot easier and smaller to navigate. Trust me, that first dungeon was pretty big for a first area. So now you won't have to spend 2 hours just to clear half the floor. Which is great. Now, just because it's easier doesn't make it entirely better. There's still some issues so far that I have with the game. For one, the party size when you go into battle is still relatively small, and I don't know why you just can't bring 6. Especially considering the amount of characters that you have, you really want that extra slot. As well as the kinds of personas you get from battle, like, they get very weak very fast. It's kind of an issue. Speaking of the cast, you get so many. It is insane. You have the entire cast of 3, including the FemC, which, what the fuck?
What are you doing here?
That is some weird time bullshit. Get the entire cast of 4 to come in, and the entire cast of 5. Yeah, it does add more variety in how you craft your teams. So far, there aren't really any that are bad per se. But honestly, if the last game is any indicator, you'll just want to have the MCs in your party level up for awakenings. Unless the game doesn't have them, then, well, it's a waste. The other issue with this is that, well, everyone's going to be the peanut gallery if they're not a part of the main scene. So you're going to have so many characters in a single cutscene just talking and talking and talking that cutscenes are going to be cluttered and way longer than they need to. It's going to become a real issue. Now, items are also really bad so far. You got the usual affairs like some heals and a revive item and whatnot, but they're really fucking awful, and it takes you so long to learn Recarm. I have not found a better revival item, and the healing item of a thing of popcorn, I mean, sure, it works, but it still sucks. Normal medicine heals more. Or at least I think it does. But anyways, the Gutsy Fries is garbage. But despite all the weird jank sometimes, I can say that I'm at least enjoying this game a bit more than the first. Hell, Kamoshida Man's a fun boss too. I like what it does, despite how brutal it can be, but it's fair. They've really improved a bit with this game, and that's all I can really ask for a sequel. I'll be finishing this in my free time, but now I feel like hitting the dance floor. That means cut to Persona 4 dancing.
Here's another one. One time for the mind now. Let's go.
Alright, so before starting the segment, here's a little bit of behind the scenes. Now, originally in the planning stages, this was going to be a video on just the dancing games. But, after doing some thinking, well, you got what you're watching right now. That out of the way, time to talk about rhythm games. Yeah, this is weird to me when I first heard about it, but, I mean, Persona's got some good music. And, well, considering Persona 4, yeah, it makes sense, you know, Risei's an idol, music, dancing, whatever. Yeah, why not? It's still a bit strange to have this many, and by many, I mean more than just one. Though I can only assume these were all made because stuff like Idolmaster and Project Diva were getting pretty big, so, you know, they just decided to milk it kind of like those franchises. There's like 50 of them on PlayStation 4, I think. Now, there's a few differences between Persona 4 and 3 and 5. but we'll go ahead and take this one step at a time. We're going to start with Persona 4 Dancing All Night, which came out in 2015 on the Vita. I didn't play the Vita version, but I got the Endless Night collection, which gave me a digital code. So yeah, all the footage is from a PS4 version of a game that I played on my PS5. And there's one major difference that makes this game stand out from the others, and that's an actual story mode. Now, the story mode of this game is, honestly, it's interesting in some parts, but really boring in others. The main plot revolves around this idol from years ago who committed suicide one night, and now semi-haunts the studio through this website for the upcoming Love Meets Bonds festival. This results in a rumor similar to the Midnight Channel, because, you know, originality, who needs that? Rise decided to invite the entire investigation team to participate as backup dancers. Yeah, sure, because I totally see half these guys as any kind of dancers. But as they train, they decide to look into this supposed rumor and end up in a place called the Midnight Stage. And from there, the game's basically an expansion of the kind of themes the original Persona 4 went into. You know, you gotta find the missing idols, and they're all dealing with problems of their own identities. The identities of who they really are and who they are expected to be from their audience. Now, eventually in the real world, Dojima comes in and helps the new character out. Her name's Konami Mashita, and they get in some real world investigation, you know, while they're still wondering where the current idols are gone, and, you know, that girl who died years ago, and, like, that's really the gist of it all. I don't really want to spoil too much, because I think it's an interesting narrative, so, you know, I mean, if you're able to play it, then go play it. Story in general is just fine. It just becomes a slog when characters keep repeating the same points they just pointed out, like, 2 sentences ago. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but really, it kind of made me not want to play the story mode and just play the main game, but you need to unlock extra songs, and yeah, there you go. The story mode could have been a bit better overall, but you know what? It helps separate it from most rhythm games that barely have a story or just have songs for the sake of songs. Looking at you, Melody of Memory. Now, speaking of songs, that's the real meat and potatoes of this game. I always liked the music in Persona 4, so I may be a bit biased towards this one. But honestly, it works pretty well, and I like a lot of the remixes that they do. Some of them improve on them, or even become entirely new songs. It's great. Now, the general gameplay itself, as you might be able to see on the screen, you got 6 circles on the screen. The left consists of up, left, and down arrows, and the right side is triangle, circle, and X buttons. Now, among those notes, there's stuff like single tap, you got holds, or these unison notes, where 2 notes on the opposite side need to be pressed. There's also these blue rings. Those are scratch notes, as they're called, and you basically gotta flick the thumbstick in order to hit them. They're not required, but if you want the ultimate ranking, known as a King Crazy, you need to hit them, because that's basically the ultimate FC. Something else that's in the game that's pretty interesting is this mechanic called Fever Time. So basically you have a, like, bar that you fill up, like, artificially. And what it does is there's these weird rainbow circles that are usually scratch notes, but they'll say fever on them. You hit 3 of them before a certain point, and then you get a special mechanic called Fever Time. Some of these are just okay when you put them together, but stuff like seeing Kanji do ballet during snowflakes is just... it's so funny, but it's so wholesome at the same time and really works for him. Then, of course, like anything with Kanji and Naoto is absolutely adorable, and then, you know, you got Nanako dancing with Narukami. I like stuff like that. And, you know, it really helps highlight, you know, that these people are all friends. And I don't know, that's just something that they've brought in from the games that's really nice. It's a neat mechanic, and they really didn't have to put it in, but it's fine. Now, it's easy to play on lower difficulties, and even at first, it's really simple. But once you get to higher difficulties, it requires a lot more skill. I can play a few of the songs on the highest difficulty known as All Night, but some of the real faster ones, or the ones that just have notes everywhere, really give me trouble. It's an honest learning process, and the game does a good job of progressing you to a point where you can do decently well, or even beat the level quite easily. Also, do note, if you want to play this game in the best way possible, get the fast notes upgrade first. It really helps keep the rhythm of the game going. Now there's also a shop you can access from the main menu that Tanaka runs. Always good to see him. Here you can get stuff like challenge modifiers, costumes, accessories, all kinds of stuff that you get using points from completing the game and replaying tracks in the free play mode. There's also a gallery. You can view the main character's models, you can view your scores, music, and so on and so forth. There's also DLC for this game, and oh boy, it's a lot. It also includes the worst song to play in any of these games, as well as
Hatsune Miku!
Anyway, it's kind of worth it if you like music from the animes. Like, you got basically all the openings, and well, if you want to see Adachi do an interpretive dance on the same level as Max dance in Always Sunny, well, you're in for a real treat. The game's pretty fun and still my favorite out of all three, having some of my favorite amount of replay value where I actively wanted to play and replay certain songs. Hell, while recording footage I wanted to keep playing, but no, I had to get footage for the others, so you know what, that's fine. Once we get to the others though, that's where things get a bit more interesting.
Let's rock, baby.
Now, Persona 3 and 5 dancing, in terms of general gameplay and structure, they're about the same as the one that came before it. And, well, the same as each other. They came out the same day, they have the same things going on, and, well, honestly, the game itself seems like a downgrade. Now, the main thing with 3 and 5 is that everything is in a dream. Great. So, each team is brought into the Velvet Room by their respective attendants, you know. Elizabeth and the twins. Because they're not Lavenza? Okay, sure, whatever. But, it's a contest between the Velvet Room children. And so, you get to play with either C's or the Fan of Thieves. And they can dance however they want because it's a dream, and you know, a dream makes you do the cool things. You can be the cool guy, but oh my god, I don't like it. I really don't like how they set this up, because at least in the last one, it's kind of believable that they can dance bad, or you know, at least competently even, because you know, it's real life, you know, people make mistakes. But since it's a dream, when they make mistakes, it seems kind of weird and they're just not thinking. I don't know, but either way, they won't remember any of this when they wake up. In between all the dancing, you got S-Lings. Yes, they're all called S-Lings this time. And you get them with each party member and even the Velvet Room people. They're short, little nothing conversations that are really a way to relax between certain sections of the game. You gotta meet certain objectives to even unlock their conversations. That includes clearing songs, playing with challenge modifiers, getting a certain rating, all kinds of stuff. A lot of them are really just callbacks to other kinds of events in their previous game, so if you're not a big Persona fan, a lot of these references are gonna be lost and go right over your head. And after a certain point, you can even visit the party members' rooms. Once you have a conversation with them, they'll leave and you're able to snoop about all their stuff. But instead of being a weird creep, you could just find these little cards that the attendants hide? Sure. These get you mostly accessories. Some of them are challenge modifiers as well, but it just really depends on which one there is. There's 8 ranks, so ranks 5 through 8, you find a card, and there's a lot, and some of these are pretty well hidden. Some of them are just really obvious, depending on where you look. I mean, it's not a bad idea, but really, I could care less. As for the main music, well, let's do this one at a time, in the order that I played it at least. Starting with Persona 5, well, you got a lot of original tracks that are just there, but the remixes, they're really not so great. Some are pretty alright, but the main issue with it is that, well, the music of Persona 5 itself is this jazz funk fusion with some rock tracks and other kinds of things to really mix it up. But overall, with what it does, it's mostly like techno, freaking auto-tune and all that. It really doesn't work, and even Massacre is one of my favorite tracks. Lynn, honey, I love you. You got a great voice, but like, you can't do auto-tune for Rivers and not expect it to get some any kind of positivity. I hate it. And it makes me real upset that they just don't have certain tracks that you'd expect to have, like, you know, Layer Cake. Or even Butterfly Kiss. I mean, those would seem perfect, but I guess no. Let's just have more of Last Surprise. Why not? But honestly, if you ask me, Futaba's got the best tracks in the game. Those are honestly my favorite to listen to. And, well, some of these. I'm just going to put up a list on screen. Something I do like that these games introduce are these music video tracks, I'll call them. They're normal songs, but I guess since they didn't want to pay the actors to mocap more dancing, or, you know, to find some footage, they just made music videos with the models. Sure, why not? The only one I don't like in 5 is the girls with their own version of Last Surprise. The whole thing makes me a bit uncomfortable, and, well, when I'm not thinking of how it reminds me of the musical Chicago... I don't know, it's just mid. It's also upsetting that there's a noticeable lack of tracks in just overall number. That's excluding DLC. It's weird how the Vita game has more, but I guess that just says a lot about the quality that Atlus was looking for this one. As for when they do Fever Time in Persona 5, a lot of these can be hit or miss. There's some that I find really good, like Futaba in When Mother Was There, like Makoto is there and she's acting like the stern mother type to Futaba and she's freaking out. Like that's fun, and then there's some with Morgana, but overall these aren't really that fantastic. At least in Persona 5 we get Ryuji doing headbutts in a mosh pit with Futaba. That one's still my favorite, that's funny as hell. As for P3's tracks, honestly I like them a bit more since the vibe of that game is mostly like just R&B and a general chill feel, so they can kind of work a little bit more with kind of the remixes. But even still, there's something missing that made P4 dancing so much more. With this one, it focuses a lot on portable and even has 2 remixes of the PQ battle theme? Sure. I don't know why, but why not? You could have put something like Changing Seasons or whatever, you know.
Honestly, the real crime of the game is that they didn't include a remix of the Iwatadai Dorm.
But hey, more power to you. But this has a lot of songs that I still find myself listening to all the time. Way of Life, Time, Wiping All Out, Deep Breath, Deep Mentality. Just, it's so good. Oh, and Heartful Cry is also good. And then Persona 3 just freaking puts whatever in there, and they hardly try with Fever Times. They are my least favorite out of all of them. I don't know what happened. Like, come on, guys. I get it that they're not all friends, but you could have at least tried to sync them up a little bit. You know, at least have the girls sync up pretty well and the boys be pretty good.
It's not really that, like, they don't sync well together. It's just that they're generic, I guess. Like, you don't really get much feeling from it. Hell, I got more feeling from the Fever Times in 5. But in these, they're just kind of their own thing, and they don't mesh well together. I don't know, it's really weird. The only one that just sticks out in my mind is Ken dancing with Mitsuru, but that's just because, you know, incel Atlas fans will be like, I want to dance with Mitsuru, pretty mommy, please step on me, and then people will also be reminded that you can date a kid. Yeah, that's fun. Now, as for DLC, I've kind of been neglecting to mention that for one specific reason. It's kind of shared between both games and doesn't make sense. See, alright, so you get characters like Shinjiro, and you get Akechi, Lavenza, Theo, Labris, and Sho are here, but like, you can play them in both P3 and P5 dancing for some reason. It's literally shared between themselves, and with what I got, I also got the intro to all 3 games, yes, including 4, able to download and play, and that is just, oh my god, that is so odd. Why? Why would you even think of that? Yes, I get it, but why not just make them separate? It's that easy. I don't know, it's just very confusing. And not to mention, there aren't really that many interesting tracks worth buying, so I didn't buy all the DLC. But really, at the end of the day, Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight and Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight just seem soulless. I don't know, like, these didn't really do much of anything to improve aside from debatably better graphics and models. I don't know why the friggin' Persona 5 models don't look as good, but the Persona 3 ones look pretty alright. I don't know, like, there's some good in them, but if anything, just play 4 and be done. You can play 3 and 5 if you want, but that's not really, like, required, I guess. It's just disappointing that it started out so well and just kind of crashed and burned. And that's every Persona spinoff. Finally, it's done. It's over. Oh my god, yeah, that definitely took a lot to do. This was definitely my longest in terms of how much I had to put in terms of all the games that I had to play. Some of these I already played beforehand, but you know, the Q games, they're like actual games, so they're longer, I guess, so. Anyway, if you did, like this, cool, great, thanks. I don't know how many of the other Persona videos these people or anybody's watch. Insert usual YouTube thing of people aren't subscribable. But whatever. I don't care. I'm not that much of a hack, so I'll make fun of it. Anyways, as for the next thing, it's not going to be Persona related. I have a few, like, smaller video ideas that I want to do. Like not as ambitious as this, but I'm going to still try and put some effort into it. But aside from that, I don't know when, like, the next big thing is going to come out. That'll just depend on multiple factors. And mainly just how much I want to do. But anyway, I don't have an outro, so I guess the only way to end the video is to do the typical YouTuber thing and follow up on a joke bit from the beginning. Cut to white. Ah, you are back. It has certainly been some time since you have returned. Do not ask why I have a Photoshop nose. That is not of your concern. Now then, let us see what your journey has unfolded for you.
It seems the death card is upside down. Interesting. You seem fearful of change. That is not good, but that is what most humans fear. Let's see what else. The Fool is in the upright position. Very interesting. Despite that you don't change, you still always go for a new adventure. Intriguing. I await to see what your journey brings to you in the future. I doubt we will meet again, because frankly this is expensive. But I have faith that you will make the right decision. I am pleased that you were my guest this evening. Until then, farewell.
Those long days passing by from the door, like late summer, they slowly fade away.
Hey, if you made it to the end of the video, thanks. Whenever I'm not doing this, you can find me on Twitch. That's pretty cool. And if you want to consider donating to the Ko-Fi that I made, go right ahead. It's on the screen. The link will take you there in the description as well. Okay.